Говорят, что я опаздываю. 17:30, видишь, нет еще.
Я, честно сказать, не такой большой фанат ММА был, там, что я там смотрел бои, там кто-то рассказывает, я вижу интервью, что там у меня диски были первых боев UFC. У меня такого не было, честно. Просто вот как-то мне понравился этот вид спорта. Я начал этим заниматься, попал, наверное, большую роль, что сыграл, попал в хорошую команду в нужное время. Вот у меня было тогда такое время, когда я менял разные виды спорта от одного к другому, переезд там с Махачкалы, я переехал там в пригород. И такой момент был, но не мог себя найти, честно сказать. И вот попал в команду нашему тренеру покойному Думанабу. И...
Давай. Независимая экспертиза, кто там, коллеги? Четко.
9, 10.
Носом трогай, Лей, носом!
Там еще 3 человека идите.
Гарри, выспались?
Разговор экспертиза.
Это был первый сбор тогда, когда вот Хаид базу запустил. Он даже ее тогда не запустил, но он сказал, что там есть ковер, есть гостиница. И вот там подъем вот сразу. Это просто гора, которая стоит перед базой, вот на нее надо бежать. Вот такой подъем, с первых 200 метров все уже. Я устал уже, ноги забились, но я бегу. И в какой-то период я сам себе говорю, я тогда готовился на титульный бой, что это твой титульный бой, тебе надо добежать до конца. Я начал бежать как мог, и в периоде не было никого вокруг, и я, оказывается, пропустил поворот. И я вот сам себе говорю, нам дали задачу туда добежать, значит, есть там конец, и надо бежать туда. И уже ноги у меня...
He's an upcoming fighter himself, a lightweight, and he scored a takedown on Ian Garry. And he had his back for a second, and there's all this training footage of Ian Garry being taken down by someone and all of this. But that doesn't mean shit, dude. I've seen embarrassing training footage of Gaethje all over the place. And he still goes out there and gets it done against Ilia Topuria. You know? Everybody mocks the way Sean Strickland spars against people. And he still gets it done against Khamzat Chimaev. Does Ian Garry have the game planning necessary to get this one done? He's not going to be much bigger than Islam Makhachev. I've already seen people putting out the weights and saying that Makhachev's actually going to be weighing in a little bit more than Ian Garry for this division. It hurts me to say this, but is Islam Makhachev's win over JDM as impressive as we once thought? You know? To not come close to submitting him, to never really be able to beat him up on the ground. Is he just going to go out there and submit Ian Garry? way bigger than him, way taller than him. Not bigger than him, but frame-wise.
Now that UFC 330 is official, attention will turn towards what might very well be Ian Machado Garry's toughest test yet in his career. Where others have analyzed Garry's mobility, distance, and strikes, it seems that Islam Makhachev may be doing something else entirely, as reports and training videos show that the champion may be focusing on the threat posed by Garry's body type and ability to fight from a distance. As the fight approaches, people are beginning to question whether or not Makhachev can prevent Garry from succeeding.
Просто оттягивай, сползай, будь минут.
Есть какой-то возрастной дедлайн? До какого возраста хотел бы выступать?
Нет, возрастной я не думаю. Есть пробег.
And Islam is seemingly a bad matchup, right? He's seemingly a bad matchup for Garry. But Garry keeps on getting better. I mean, in theory, Rakhmonov was a bad matchup for Garry. In theory, that was the one that was going to wipe the Ian Garry mystique from everybody's minds. And that just simply is not what happened. And I have to remind myself that Garry lost that fight. Like, if you look at like his stock, you know, who bounced and whose stock went up, Garry's went up that night against Rakhmonov, including in defeat. But if you don't put Garry in for a title fight, where do you put him? I mean, you got this young guy that could be the face of a division. In all fairness, Garry could be the face of the organization. Garry has that kind of appeal. If you put a belt around his waist on top of it, it's not an exaggeration to say that Garry could be the face of the organization, and he's getting better. And a lot of guys don't get better. A lot of times they say, well, let me get this guy some experience. Let's build him. That's in theory. That's in soccer.
One of the things that has really been up for discussion in this fight is how well Islam Makhachev is preparing himself against Ian Machado Garry. While his previous fights have involved fighters who were not as tall and had an excellent technique for striking, Garry stands taller and has a reach advantage over others. This makes it easier for him to control distance and make people chase him around. For this reason, Makhachev is expected to work on cutting the cage and reducing distance. Just like any other MMA analyst, Ariel Helwani kicked off by noting the enormity of the task at hand for Ian Machado Garry. For starters, Helwani noted that the odds were stacked against Garry in favor of Makhachev, indicating that people feel confident in their champion retaining his title. Nothing could surprise Helwani about the overwhelming confidence seen in Makhachev, since in his view, he has rightfully earned this title due to his consistent victories over elite contenders. Nevertheless, according to Ariel Helwani, Ian Garry was more than deserving of getting this chance. Contrary to other opinions that Ian wasn't even supposed to get such a chance, Helwani clearly stated that Ian Garry was leading all along for this contest.
Speaking of those odds, do we have any of those odds? Does Kalshi have those, or is it too soon? Well, there you have it. Look at that. So they're saying who's going to be holding the belt by the end of this year, December 31st, 2026. 77% have it in favor of Islam, the champ, 20% for Carlos, 19% for Ian. So it seems as though not a lot of faith in Ian right now. Can I tell you what is probably most surprising about this? It's the thought that they think that someone is going to get a crack at Islam if he wins by the end of this year, like someone else. I mean, if history is any indication, it's usually one a year for Islam. Like, you think he's fighting August 15th and coming back by the end of the year? I mean, I guess if it's a really quick fight, but
it's not going to be a quick fight, I don't think.
It's not going to be. Do you fancy his chances, PT?
I think he has a chance, absolutely. I think, look, Islam's the best fighter in the world. It's a huge task. He'll test Ian in a way that we thought Bilal would. and he didn't.
Toward the end of the discussion, Ariel's biggest takeaway was that this is a fascinating matchup rather than an easy title defense. He repeatedly spoke about how exciting the welterweight division has become and mentioned several compelling matchups involving Islam, Garry, Carlos Prates, and Michael Morales. The fact that Helwani viewed Islam versus Garry as one of the most intriguing fights in the division says a lot about how seriously he takes Garry as a contender. Even though Ariel clearly viewed Islam Makhachev as the superior fighter and likely winner, he believed Garry had earned his chance and possessed enough talent to make the champion work for every second of the fight.
Flyweight,
whatever order you want to put them in, I'm cool with.
For me, it's welterweight. I just love those 4 guys. I just think those 4 guys. Morales versus Islam is a fascinating fight.
Yeah.
Ian versus Islam is a fascinating fight. Ian versus Morales is a fascinating fight. Morales versus Prates is a fascinating fight.
What do you do with those 2 guys now?
Who?
Morales and Prates.
People got mad at me when I said it. People got mad at me when I said it, but I want to see Morales versus Prates now.
Me too.
It's a great fight.
That's unbelievable.
Can we get it on the
That's
card?
a BMF fight. That is a BMF fight.
Honestly,
You know
like,
what I mean?
Garry versus Makhachev is great for the title, but I think I would be more excited for Prates Morales.
Yeah. Sheer
I know
bloodlust.
I would be.
Absolutely. Sheer bloodlust. Yeah.
James Lynch focused on what he believed would be the biggest challenge for Garry. The reason for that was that although Garry had mastered fighting and winning many bouts lately, the majority of those victories had been won using his tactical approach. Lynch believed this could backfire when going up against a man like Islam Makhachev because, according to Lynch, this guy is so tough and unpredictable that any tactical approach will probably not be enough. James Lynch believed that this man had demonstrated the capability of adjusting to any challenge put before him.
Oliveira was a very dominant win. So yeah, he's looked great. Going to be hard to take out Islam Makhachev. With Garry, again, I talk about the good game planning here. But the thing with Garry that I'll point out here in this fight is that, you know, he's winning fights. He's looking good. Again, he fought a really good power puncher on Carlos Prates. But my thing with Garry is a lot of decisions here. I think his last stoppage win was the Daniel Rodriguez fight, which Rodriguez didn't look that great in that one. Garry doesn't really do that like extra stuff where you're like, okay, maybe, you know, it could be a case of where he's, going out there and finishing these guys, and maybe there's a chance that he could like clip Islam or get a submission. But I think with Garry, it's all about the game plan, and I just don't think he's going to be able to like out game plan Islam. I think Islam's on another level.
Lynch then got to his actual prediction. Although he recognized that there had been many surprises in the past few weeks, he didn't think that Garry would be the next fighter to do it. Instead, he continued saying that Islam is a born welterweight who didn't lose anything after moving up the division. On the contrary, Lynch saw how much more dangerous Makhachev became because of that. That's why Lynch believed that Islam would dominate the fight to a great extent and secure a decisive win over his rival. Of course, he didn't expect him to completely outplay Garry, but he knew that Islam would be better on the whole.
You know, we've seen upsets this year, so I'm not going to say that Garry can't win this fight. Obviously, a lot of stuff can happen, but I think Islam's got this. I think he looks like a true welterweight. He looks like someone that is very strong in the weight class. Didn't look like he missed a beat there as far as moving up. I think Islam probably takes a decision. The one thing with Garry, to his credit, hasn't been finished. I don't know if Islam will be the guy to do that. Even the Shavkat fight, we've seen Shavkat with a very good finishing ability, wasn't able to do it. Obviously, Shavkat was injured in that fight, and we haven't seen him since. But, that was still a close fight for Garry. So I think probably Islam wins the decision, but I'll do a little bit more. I will do an in-depth breakdown a little bit later here on Early Look and kind of go into the, nuts and bolts and the numbers and all that stuff. So that probably think Islam wins the decision. Is it going to be like a, dominant decision? I don't know about that. I think Garry will put up a good fight.
First, MMA Guru started off by poking fun at the way underdogs of late had really turned the MMA world on its head. After seeing athletes such as Sean Strickland and Justin Gaethje make shock wins, he asked himself whether Ian Machado Garry was up to the task of making an upset victory over the likes of Islam Makhachev. Although he stated that Garry should lose and that Islam is among the top contenders in MMA, he kept going back to the fact that this sport hardly ever runs on script. However, he stunned not only his viewers but also himself when he picked Garry to win the fight and the world championship.
Despite him being against the odds, because we know Islam Makhachev's going to be a favorite here, maybe, just maybe, the boys and co do it again. Okay? Hear me out. Strickland pulled it off against Chimaev. Gaethje just pulled off the impossible against Ilia Topuria. And you're telling me that I shouldn't pick Ian Machado Garry to defeat Islam Makhachev in the main event and school him over 5 rounds? Come on! This is how it works, right? This is just the way things go, folks. I don't make the rules of MMA. I really don't. But there's an underdog there. And his name's Ian Machado Garry. And he should lose. And Islam Makhachev's on this GOAT horizon. And man, if he wins this one, we may have to have some uncomfortable conversations about the GOAT list. We've heard it all before. He's in a caucus. He can't be beaten. Even though this one's been beaten before. I've seen this guy flatline KO'd. Okay? And I'm not supposed to pick Ian Machado Garry here. I'm picking Ian Garry! Ugh. I never thought I'd say those words. But god damn it, I'm picking Ian Garry.
Guru also supported the idea that Garry should be regarded as the top contender for the belt. This fighter had earned more of a right to the title fight than Michael Morales and Carlos Prates, since the former had already won the bout against Prates and had managed to accumulate a better record among welterweights. According to Guru, the right decision was made by UFC in letting Garry get into the title match, though he appreciated the way Islam proved himself as a champion in the fight with Jack Della Maddalena, and because of that, Guru noted that some people viewed him as invincible.
Islam Makhachev went out there against JDM, held him down for 5 rounds. Now, very impressive to do. He didn't exactly Carlos Prates JDM. Okay, and this is interesting to see Garry get the shot over Prates and Morales, because there were rumors that it was going to be Morales. And I was saying the whole time, no, it should be Ian Garry. He's the #1 contender in the welterweight division. He's the most proven out of any of the contenders. I'm sorry, Morales just beat Sean Brady and clobbered him because he's an imp for the division. That doesn't really prove much to me other than finishing potential. And Prates got schooled by Ian Garry when Garry stepped up on short notice. So I do think they've picked the right contender for this defense for Makhachev. Is Makhachev going to get it done? Volkanovski took it. Listen, I'm going to go through that. We're going through it again. We're going through it again. Volkanovski took this guy to a razor-close decision. That's a featherweight. That's a featherweight Volk right there. Listen, maybe he's past his prime now. Whatever you want to say. But when he first moved up to take on Makhachev at lightweight, he had Makhachev clinging on for dear life in round 5.
Javier Mendez speaks about Garry as a dangerous fighter. Garry is a tall and tricky fighter, and the fight can change in one punch. However, Mendez does not think Garry has the ability to control Islam on the ground. Garry may be able to survive a bad position, but Garry will not be able to win it. In addition, Garry has good takedown defense, but it is not good enough to stop Islam. However, the important thing to note is that Islam is not locked into a strategy. Islam can do whatever is needed.
Ian Garry, he's a bit of a weird one, right? Like, he's a difficult guy to fight, difficult guy to look good against. He's long, he's rangy, he's pretty strategic in there. How do you feel like he matches up with Islam Makhachev?
He does well with Islam on the stand-up because he's rangy, he's tricky, all those. But on the ground, he doesn't. He does okay, but he doesn't survive on the ground. I don't think. I mean, well, okay, he might survive 5 rounds, but he won't get the best of Islam on the ground. That I'm 100% sure about that. On the stand-up, he's pretty tricky. So one punch can change everything on that. One kick, one punch, one knee. You know, so that's a different story. But on the ground, I don't see him dominating. I see him surviving, possibly. So yeah, I could see that. But and then the takedown defense that he has is decent, but not great enough to stop Islam from taking him down. But again, you know, sometimes we'll go in there and we'll decide that we're gonna do this with Islam, and next thing you know, next round we'll say, okay, take him down now, or next thing you know, next round we'll go stand up, because he's that good.
This was what some of the top people in MMA had to say regarding the upcoming fight between Islam Makhachev and Ian Machado Garry. Though many believe that Makhachev will retain his belt, others feel that Garry is capable of shocking the MMA community by pulling off an upset win. With a combination of Islam's superior wrestling skills and championship experience matched against Garry's physical stature, mobility, and fight IQ, this has become one of the fights of the year. As we move closer to fight night, the more polarized the views are getting, which just further enhances the hype behind this title fight. One thing that is for sure is that both these fighters have something to prove, and that once that cage door opens, none of them will show any mercy. But what do you guys think? Will Islam Makhachev continue his undefeated streak and keep the title, or will Ian Machado Garry steal it from under him?